How do you rise to the top of the fight game with only one functioning eye? That's not just a challenge. It's a medical impossibility to most. But Shara Magomedov, known as Bullet, didn't just ignore the odds. He shattered it. With a face that hides secrets and a style that leaves opponents frozen. This man is rewriting what it means to be a fighter. He has severely limited vision in his right eye, a catastrophic injury that doctors swore would sideline him for good. They told him he was finished, that he could never again compete at an elite level. They were dead wrong. This is the story of how a career-ending injury created one of the most dangerous, unpredictable, and feared strikers in UFC today. This is the incredible story of Shara Magomedov. Our story starts in Moscow, Dagestan, a place in the Caucasus Mountains of Russia that has become a factory for combat sports legends. Born on May 16, 1994, Shara's early life wasn't easy. His first love wasn't even fighting, it was football. He dreamed of a life on the pitch, but his fiery temper, a trait that would follow him his whole life, got him kicked off his local team after a heated argument, needing an outlet and a way to defend himself. He walked into a boxing gym when he was just 12. That was the first step on a path that led him not to the wrestling mats of his home, but to the art of striking. He moved from boxing to Muay Thai, the art of 8 minutes, and that's where he found his true passion. He just fell in love with the brutal poetry of kicks, knees, and elbows, while all his peers were drilling takedowns. Shara was sharpening a diverse and vicious striking arsenal, even becoming a Russian Muay Thai champion. He was an anomaly in a land of grapplers, a creative and violent striker who stood out from the crowd. His journey eventually took him all the way to Thailand to perfect his skills. He was on the rise, a unique talent with a huge future. But it was there, in the heartland of his dream, that disaster struck. During a totally routine training session, his life changed in an instant. He suffered a catastrophic injury to his right eye. This wasn't just a simple black eye. It was a complex problem that spiraled into different complications, baffling doctors and resisting every treatment they tried. What came next was a grueling 2-year nightmare of pain and uncertainty. To try and save his vision, Magomedov went through an unbelievable 8 separate surgeries. He described the process as pure torture, with doctors piercing his eye from all sides with cameras and tools to pump fluids in and out. Each surgery was a new roll of the dice, a new spark of hope that was crushed when it failed. The financial cost was enormous, putting a massive strain on his family. And professionally, he was completely lost. He couldn't train, he couldn't fight, and the dream that had carried him from Dagestan to Thailand was dissolving right in front of him. Finally, the diagnosis was grim. The surgeries hadn't worked. His vision was permanently damaged, a condition that would get him disqualified by most athletic commissions on the spot. Doctors gave him the final, devastating news. His career was over, for a man whose whole identity was built on his physical gifts. Being told he was visually impaired was like telling a concert pianist they were going deaf. The darkness he was facing wasn't just in his eyes. It was about to swallow his entire future. In the middle of all that despair, with his career in shambles, Shara Magomedov found a little bit of hope in the most unlikely place. The story of another fighter who had stared into that same abyss and refused to give up. That fighter was Michael, the Count Bisping. Years earlier, in 2013, the British UFC fighter had suffered his own detached retina after a nasty head kick from Vitor Belfort. Despite having severely impaired vision, Bisping secretly kept his career going. He hid the extent of his blindness from doctors, changed his entire fighting style to protect his weak side, and then went on the most legendary run of his life. In 2016, with basically only one good eye, Bisping shocked the world by knocking out Luke Rockhold to become the UFC middleweight champion. For Shara, learning about Bisping's journey was a revelation. It was proof that his dream wasn't dead. In Bisping, he saw a blueprint for how to succeed against impossible odds. It was the turning point. Magomedov has said that Bisping became his primary motivation. He explained, Bisping is a motivation because he's someone who's already walked this path. It's much easier to follow somebody's path as opposed to wander around in the dark. Knowing that a fighter could not only compete but win a UFC title with a similar disability completely changed Shara's mindset. He stopped focusing on what he lost and started thinking about what he could still achieve. The physical limitation was real, but this being proved it didn't have to be a life sentence. Armed with this new hope, Shara made a decision. He wasn't just going to fight again. He was going to adapt, overcome, and chase that same glory. The pirate was about to set sail. To solve this, Shara built a system around what he could control: distance, angles, and a relentless, non-stop kicking game. His legs became his primary weapon and his range finders. He throws a dizzying variety of kicks: spinning kicks, question mark kicks, axe kicks, and brutal shots to the body and legs to keep opponents exactly where he wants them. This constant, unpredictable attack makes it incredibly hard for anyone to close the distance and exploit his blind side. His return to competition was spectacular. He tore through the regional circuits in Russia and China, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. He wasn't just winning, he was finishing guys with brutal efficiency. His record grew, with almost all of his victories coming by knockout, often in the first round. His very last fight before getting the call to the big show ended in just 8 seconds. He built a reputation as a terrifying terror, a human highlight reel with an endless library of devastating strikes. This is also when he fully embraced his one-eyed pirate persona, turning his disability into a mark of identity and a core part of his mystique. By the time the UFC came calling, he wasn't seen as a fighter with a handicap. He was seen as an undefeated killer. In October 2023, Shara Magomedov finally made his UFC debut at UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi, and the hype was real. The whole MMA world was buzzing about the one-eyed Dagestani striker. He was matched up against the tough and durable Bruno Silva, a serious test for any newcomer. For 3 rounds, Shara put his unique style on full display, peppering Silva with a barrage of body kicks to win a clear, unanimous decision. He had arrived on the world's biggest stage and proved he belonged. His next fight only added to his growing legend. In June 2024, he was scheduled to fight in Saudi Arabia. After a chaotic fight week that saw multiple opponent changes, he finally stepped into the cage against Antonio Trottola. The fight didn't last long. In the 3rd round, Shara cornered Trottola against the fence and unloaded a vicious combination of knees and punches, scoring a brutal knockout victory and keeping his undefeated record intact. With 2 UFC wins under his belt, Shara has proven he's not just a gimmick or a cool story. He's a legitimate threat in the middleweight division. He has shown he can win a technical 15-minute battle and that he has the killer instinct to finish the fight in spectacular fashion. The pirate has successfully stormed the shores of the UFC, and he's not planning on leaving anytime soon. But what happens when the 2 most unpredictable strikers go against each other? On the 1st of February, Shara would face his opponent Michael Page with a record of 22 wins and only 3 losses. Shara Bullet Magomedov walked into Saudi Arabia with a 15-0 record, undefeated and dangerous. Then Michael Venom Page entered the octagon. The former Bellator star moved up to middleweight to face Shara, bringing elite footwork, evasive striking, and laser-sharp precision. From round, Page controlled everything. His movement cut off angles. His jabs snapped. Magomedov chased, but could never land clean. Page even stunned Shara with a power right hand early. By round 2, MVP peppered him with stray elbows and a flying knee that drew gas. Shara finally found some offense in round 3, but it was too late. Page stayed slick, stayed cool. When the final horn sounded, it was unanimous: 30-27, 30-27, and 29-28. Shara Magomedov lost for the first time in his career. Even in defeat, he revealed something shocking. He entered the cage battling a nightmarish health condition, parasitosis by a faux issue that left his body weak and shaky. It turned a potential highlight into a heartbreaking fall. In his last fight, he would face an opponent named Marc-Andre Barrios at UFC Saudi Arabia. Sharaputdin Magomedov stepped into the cage in Riyadh with his perfect record on the line. But this time, the pressure was heavy. He wasn't just fighting Marc-Andre Barrios. He was fighting illness, injury, and doubt. From the first spell, Barrios made it ugly. He smothered Shara against the fence, worked the clinch, and turned the fight into a grind. Shara's signature spinning kicks and wild striking had no room to breathe. He looked flat, slow, breathing heavy, and far from the showman fans were expecting. But he survived, even with his body failing him. Something he later revealed was due to a parasitic illness. He dug deep and battled to the final hole. The judges gave him the win by unanimous decision. On paper, it was another W, but in truth, it was a warning. Shara Bullet had shown heart, but also weakness. His perfect record remains. But for how long? All we know is that his story is far from over.